So thank you guys for coming in. My name is Leilani. I'm a former public and private school teacher. I am a homeschool evaluator in the state of Florida. So we've been doing these lives through the month of August, and it's been really good. There's some really good conversations that are happening in the chat room as well as over here. So let me just share with you, I do have some questions. And if you join in, feel free to type something down in the chats below if you have any questions, and I will try my best to answer them. But I'm going to go ahead and address the questions that were sent to me through either Facebook or I don't know, all the other things that I have. Just really announcements. We're going to do another Q&A next week. So if you see this as a playback and you have a question, feel free to drop it in the comments down below. We're going to take the 4th off, September 4th. And because I know everybody's kind of in the swing of things with the homeschool stuff. So we're going to take the 4th off, but then we're going to come back on 9/11 with Summer Myers, and we are going to start a series where I am unpacking. I'm unpacking this idea of how to homeschool our kids from a Christian perspective, but just unpacking the garbage that has been shoved down our throats, the lies that we've been told, the freedom that we actually have with homeschooling. I did write a book. It is called Freedom to Learn. Okay, it does have Christian overtones in it, but a lot of, even if you aren't a Christian, you can glean a lot from this book. I wrote it in a way where there's some, I wrote it in a way where there's some information. I talk about standard, I don't know if you can see it. I talk about some standardized testing in there. I should probably just show you. I should just throw up the table of contents, but I talk about, a super brief history of education, the evolution of the public school system, um, when we want to quit, talking about college, are you qualified? What happens if you feel like you're late to the game? Setting goals. We talk about the different homeschool philosophies, some thoughts on standardized testing. Who is your child's family? When we talk about that, that's actually a really interesting chapter because a lot of us say, yeah, well, we're our child's family. But when you're sending them to a public school or government school, who is their family? Who are they around the most? Like, what's the reality of all of that? And who is the one making the decision for your child? Practical homeschooling, finding your identity, those kind of things. So it's a good read. I've been hearing comments of people reading it twice, 3 times, those kind of things. So hopefully people pick up the fact that I'm here. But like I said, it would be great to have some more people jump on. That's why I was kind of stalling a little bit. But like I said, school's back in session and not many people have too many questions right now. So, all right, let me jump down to my questions. And, if you guys don't have, oh, what are the questions? Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm getting people tend to text message me as well when I'm on here. So let me just, I'm going to go through some questions that I got today through social media and answer those. And if you guys don't have anything that you want to talk about, that'll be it. So, all right. So the first one is someone uses I'm using Horizon Math with two of my children. I am curious to know at what math level you switch over to teaching textbooks and why. Okay. So teaching textbooks doesn't start until 3rd grade. And so my daughter is in she finished 2nd grade. She is starting 3rd grade this year. So we're going back to school tomorrow, but in my mind, because the co-op starts tomorrow and it kind of coincides a little bit, but in my mind, those transitions don't really happen until the high holidays, which are in October this year. So to me, in my mind, she doesn't technically start 3rd grade until after the high holidays. I don't know. We don't follow public school like numbers and grade levels. We don't, as much as whatever. We just don't. That's the reality of it. So she's going to be starting teaching textbooks 3rd grade in October. Why am I switching from Horizons to teaching textbooks? I have nothing against Horizons. Horizons has been really good to us. I love them tremendously. I'll even get the older kids some of the Horizons and I'll use it as kind of a backup sheet. If I feel like they're slacking in a certain area, I may give them some supplementary work from Horizons. I'm a big fan of Horizon. But the reason I went over to teaching textbooks is more of a lifestyle thing. well, first of all, I love math. I love it. I taught it within the private school, but I don't realistically have time to grade every little thing. So because of that, I switched over to teaching textbooks. So that's pretty much what happened. It's just easier to grade, and I don't the scope and sequence with teaching textbooks is pretty easy for me to understand. So when she's slacking in an area, I can go back and see what that is, and then I can, supplement if I need to, or delete questions and those kind of things if I need to. So, okay. Let's see, the next question that was asked. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them. All right, any tips on how to make kids focus more and keep away distractions, especially with younger siblings around? Okay, make kids focus more and keep away distractions. Probably putting them alone in a room, separating them from the chaos. Finding independent work that they can work on alone and distract the younger toddler. Also find something that your toddler likes, like a busy bin or something like that, where they can be engaged in that while you work one-on-one with your other children, keeping them focused. You can use fidget toys. You can use the timer method, which I've talked about in some of my other videos, where basically you have a timer, and let's say you want to do 15 minutes of focus. So you set the timer for 15 minutes and sit it right in front of them. Say that you are going to do your work focus for 15 minutes. And after the 15 minutes, when the timer goes off, you're going to get a 10-minute break. But then you have to go right back into 15 minutes of heavy work and explain to them that, this is what they need to do in order to get their breaks, those kind of things. So keep the 15-minute timer, do the break, and eventually over a period of time, you want to lengthen it from 15 to 16 to 17 to 18 minutes and start to stretch out their focus. So that's definitely one thing you can do. Busy bins, find something that they like. My daughter likes to line up cars. She also likes to do puzzles. She plays with her school bus. She sorts things. That's what she really likes to do. So I don't like to sit her in front of the TV too much, especially during schoolwork. But the fact that I've sat down a lot with her and taught her how to use some of these things, I think that's imperative, that they know how to use these things. So you can't just hand them a puzzle and expect them to know what to do. You're going to have to sit down with them, teach them how to do the puzzle. And that we actually do that with my other kids as they're doing independent work. I'll sit down with her and I'll teach her. You may run into the problem where the child may always want you next to them. And that's when it's, that's another obstacle that your kids need help in math, but your daughter wants to sit in your lap and do a puzzle with you. You're going to have to slowly start to separate that. That is one problem that people have run into. But you should teach them how to use some of these manipulatives and find what they enjoy the most. I also do like to sit with Naomi in my lap doing these things while my kids are doing independent work, just so everybody stays on task and focused. We'll have the timers out. Naomi keeps things to a minimum, but if we're not doing that, I do separate my kids in different areas. I've tried having them sit outside on the patio, but then sometimes that's just distracting. So I feel like they need to be within sight. Okay, and then she also says, should I invest in science? It says, okay. Also, should I invest in science in elementary grade, middle school, or reading living books and go? I can't read the rest of it. Let me pull it up here because, whoops. I'm going to pull it up here because I screenshotted them so I can have them handy, but now I didn't hit the more button, so I can't see what else she was. Okay, so she says, also, should I invest in science in elementary grades, middle school, or reading living books and go on nature walks? What website do you recommend for geography lessons? Okay, See, that's like a personal choice. You can very well use living books. I don't see any problems with that. Science, I think with Charlotte Mason, they do living books and science notebooking journals, and just really turning it back to God and God's creation and all those things. When it comes to science curriculum in general, I would always lean more towards something that comes from biblical worldview. Big fan of Apologia for elementary school kids, Master Books, which is Answers in Genesis, and that's what I would do. I like the curriculum, but but I don't use curriculum like most people use curriculum. I use curriculum as kind of a springboard to springboard us into more in-depth study. I don't use it the way I don't know. I don't use curriculum the way most people do. What was it? Living books and we go on nature walks. I make them. And we don't, we didn't really journal too much. I never could get into journaling. My daughter, the boys weren't really into journaling. We did do for astronomy. We did journaling, but that went back and forth. That didn't happen all the time. But I think girls take more, but there's boys that take to journaling. I do know that. So, but we didn't do it that much. What website do we recommend for geography lessons? Geography is just kind of mapping. That comes with our history curriculum, honestly. It blends in because we use TruthQuest. But then again, my kids are a little bit older. Oh, there is a really good geography one. Oh my gosh, I see the cover. It's blue with a horse on it. Gee, it's I want to say it's Ashley Wiggers. Geography Matters, I believe, is the company, but it's Trail Life. Nope, not Trail. That's the Trail. If you look up Geography Matters, most of their stuff is for upper elementary. I know Ashley. Her mom founded the company. They're so good. They're so good. We didn't use it. Trail Guide to Learning Passive Exploration. That is their American history stuff, but I got hooked on to TruthQuest, and so I've been kind of stuck with that. Geography Matters, Geo Matters, Homeschool Curriculum Resources. Let me see if I could find it in their store. It's so good. We use that one. Trail Guide to Learning, grade level packets. There, I see it. Oh, it's right there. Galloping the Globe. Galloping the Globe. It was so good. I loved that curriculum, especially for little bitties. They also have one, Cantering Through Countries. That's like the second grouping. Like that would be like first grade would be Galloping the Globe, and then you would do Cantering Through Countries. Those two were those were good. So that's what I would recommend for geography, unless they're in, as you move up, anything by Geography Matters is really good. If you wanted like a unit study, you could look at My Father's World. Yeah, those are my recommendations. I just know that our TruthQuest does attach geography to it. And at that point, it's a matter of just review social. Of course, mapping. We've done some mapping workbooks. We just pulled them off online so my kids understand maps. And then there's always unschooling with Google Maps, which is probably how we school mapping most of the time, because I'm horrible at directions. You cannot give me directions without Google Maps. I get lost with Google Maps too. That's a whole nother thing. So my son has learned to compensate for me by learning directions. And I almost think I have like dyslexia with reading maps, if that makes any sense to anybody. I've always wondered that, if that was a thing, because when I look at maps, they literally like look like a bunch of squiggly lines, like just they blend together, and I can't follow maps, and I've never been able to follow maps. And so the only way I learn directions is by knowing what's around me, like the not the street signs, but like the buildings around me. So that's that's like a little side note. I've gotten lost my entire life with stuff. So little TMI. Okay. So let me go back to these comments. All right. So Paulina says, we'll start week 2 with IEW. So far, so good. My son has dysgraphia. Any advice and tips? Typing and cursive. Well, no, cursive is more for dyslexia. Typing. I do know a kid that went with dysgraphia through IEW. So typing is the biggest tip. Or dictation, depending upon his age. Dictation. Also, what do you tell people when they find out you're homeschooling and want to send your kids to Christian or Messianic colleges, and these people tell you, well, the thing's not worth repeating? Oh, ignore them. They don't know what they're talking about. It's one of those things like the more you know, the more confident you are in your decisions. Like you understand why you believe what you believe, kind of thing. But I mean, it comes down to just knowing scripture, know what God says about homeschooling, know your rights as a homeschool. Also understanding that our society is completely different than it was 25, 30 years ago when homeschooling was pretty taboo. Now it's really popular. And I mean, I would love my kids, if they do decide to go to college, I would love for them to go to a Messianic college. There's one I know up in Pennsylvania. And I think that one is actually accredited, if I'm not mistaken. There's another one online through Torah resource, but that one is not accredited. And I mean, I get why. They have their reasons and they're pretty valid. But yeah, I believe the one in Pennsylvania is accredited, and it's called Messiah College. And there's some really good. Not all Christian colleges are that great, but there's a lot of really good Christian colleges too. But just have confidence. Just have confidence, and trust the Lord through all of it, and just ignore them. Was it answer? I don't. I'm going to say answer a quote. No, that would not be a good. I'm just not going to quote it because that would be not a good verse to quote because I don't think it fits the context. Okay, so yeah, so that's what I would do. I would just know why you're doing what you're doing. I'm going to go to the next question. Nobody has questions yet, so if you have questions, you can leave them in the comment section. Tips for the child who is a slow learner and needs so much repetition to learn a topic. Slow learner and repetition. Yeah. Should a parent worry and seek out help or keep pushing on? Yes, progress is being made and the information has been retained. Just has to be adapted, slowed, and repeated so much to stick. I would just continue to repeat and try to figure out their learning style to see if there's anything that you can add to it to help move them into that having it stick kind of thing. Songs, music, teaching with music is a really good way to help stick quickly. But I mean, you're just going to have to push through with helping them and finding what their gifts and talents are. If you can find out what their gifts and talents are and have them focus in on that and incorporate like the other topics into that can kind of help them with memorization and retaining information more. Now, when it comes to seeking out help, that's completely up to you and how you want to handle it. I know that some people worry so much about meeting those benchmarks according to the school system. If that's something that's really important to you and you notice they're not progressing as fast as they should, or if you feel like, because I'm not a big fan of benchmarks, that's a whole nother story. But if, as a homeschooler, if you feel like you need help with helping them progress, then seek out help and be honest with yourself and humble with yourself. Don't. Another thing too is like sometimes homeschool parents think we can do it all and we got it down. And if our kid is falling behind, it's fine. I don't want anybody to touch them. I don't want anybody's help. And it's a pride issue. We want to probably avoid the pride issue and be honest with ourselves if we need to seek out help, whether it's another homeschool parent who has giftings in that area. If you can find, a tutor that has giftings in those areas, that's okay. I know my daughter has Down syndrome, so we're in therapies, we're in occupational. They do help tremendously help. I've seen so many kids that have Down syndrome that they just sit and they watch their iPad all day and they don't move around and they're not engaged. And I was talking to Naomi's speech therapist and I was mentioning how engaged she is with so many things. And not that I like to compare, because I don't really like to compare, but I noticed that when she's with other kids that have Down syndrome, that she's just so much more engaged. I'm like, is this a personality thing? And we kind of went into a discussion about how starting therapies early on has really helped her. So when it comes to finding help, that's something that you have to, it's really between yourself, it's between your family, it's between God and you, those kind of things. You got to be honest with yourself if you need help. And if you do need help, really pray about who to go to. And I know I hear so many stories about, like, just there's so many believers out there. Like, if you're searching for someone who's a believer, there's so many out there that are willing to help. But I think the biggest thing is we need to remember that homeschooling our kids is not a pride issue. It shouldn't be a pride issue at all. And there's a lot of, especially new homeschoolers, they take so much pride and they're not willing to admit that they need help sometimes in certain areas. I always say it takes a village to raise a child, but not in context with public school at all. What I mean is, like, close friends and family. I know not all family members are supportive, but close friends with co-ops that you're close with to help, like people at your congregation, friends at your co-op, to help raise a child. And so I am a really big fan of that, because we want to get out there and our kids to be around other people, which seems to be like the biggest complaint that people have with homeschooling is socialization. But that's a whole nother topic. But okay, so back to this question, just making sure I answered it. Should a parent worry? Okay, yes, progress is being made and the information has been retained. Just has to be adapted, slowed, and repeated. Yeah, just keep repeating. So, okay, so I'm going to move on to Amanda. She says, I live in Central Florida and I feel like the services for our special needs kiddos sucks, to say the least. It's a fight or a long waited list for everyone. My prince is 5 and he has Down syndrome. I will personally never put him in the public school system. My goal is to teach him as much as I can through whatever means that be. Writing his name, coloring numbers, ABCs, potty training, and house chores. My goal is for him to be the best he can be, not just skip over something or put him in a special class where he isn't learning, but there for daily attendance. I got this. Okay, that was more of a comment. And that's kind of where I am too. Yeah. But I will say, like, our private, we go to private therapist, and I really love them. So yeah. All right. How, Owen, which I know you're on, your question was, in your experience, how does public school grading of work differ from homeschool grading? It could be different. It could be not. I just know that public school grading is, it's going to be the ABCDF. It's going to be on that 90 to 100 is A. What was it? No, I can't remember. The 80 to 90 or 89 B, 70 to 79 C, those things. And then they're looking at tests and quizzes, and the teacher always decides how they're going to weigh the grades. Every teacher grades differently. And then they put the grades on the report card as in quarter. 4 quarters, 2 semesters. And college has exams. A homeschool parent can grade them however they want. The only catch, though, yeah, and we can grade like the public school system if we want. In fact, at the co-op that I teach at, we do have a grading system that is very similar to the public school system. But as a preface, we always say, look, we're doing this because you might want them. However, you don't have to use them. And if you ever feel like there's a grade that you disagree with me, we can have a discussion on this. I did have a situation where I refused to change the grade. And I literally just said, well, this is a grade that I would give them. However, you don't have to use them. Like, just don't use them. Like, don't use them. Just don't use my grades if you don't like it. But I'm not going to talk about it. Was an interesting situation. And not going to talk about it. It's too much. There's a lot to it. There was a lot to it. usually if a parent's like, they turned this in, I swear they did. I went, okay, and I change it. But there was one time I didn't. They grade however they want to, basically, is what it comes down to. With the only catch that's what I was saying. The only catch is when you get to college. So if you're applying to a college, you need to have transcripts and you need to do your SATs or ACTs. And then they will also give you an exam when you actually get to college. So, and it also depends if you want scholarships or not. If there are certain scholarships within your county, certain scholarships. I know that if you're trying to get into college with a professional sport, there's a whole thing with that. Oops, sorry. There's a whole thing with that is just very complex and complicated. They want certain things and you have to just follow that. And if you read it in my book, I had a family that I evaluated where the high schooler was a swimmer and she wanted to get a scholarship into college for her swimming. And I mean, she swam. She woke up at 7 a.m. or 5 a.m. and swam. I think it was 5 a.m. It was early. Okay. Swam, came home, ate breakfast, went back out and swam, came home, ate lunch, did a little bit of schoolwork. She just lived and breathed in the water kind of thing. And she was training. Anyway, we had to figure out how to do her transcripts in order for her to get that college scholarship. And that was lots of fun. But yeah, colleges want transcripts and they have certain requirements for them, scholarships too. And you're going to have to do those by quarter. I think you have to do the whole thing, like the 2 quarters in the semester, 2 quarters in the semester. And they can't question I know in the state of Florida, I can only speak for the state of Florida. They can't question your transcripts. They can't. By law, they can't. So that's one nice thing about Florida. Everybody complains about the evaluation stuff, but when it comes down to it, we have so many things pulling in our direction, and that's just one of them. So I hope that answered your question, because I know you're here. So, all right, I'm going to move on to Raylene Gonzalez. What are your thoughts on BJU curriculum, especially their math and English? I have not used them personally, but I've done evaluations with them. They're I would consider them Christian traditional. I know a lot of Christian schools use them. I felt like their math is very good, actually. Their math is pretty good, especially for high school. I do know it is kind of the math to me was interesting because it would have math and then like a Bible scripture at the bottom. So I don't know why I even said that. I don't know why I said that. I just found that part pretty cute. Cute is a good word to use. But it's a good math. I would think it's like definitely one of the best. It's hard. A lot of kids will find it hard, but it does what it needs to do, especially if a child is going into a field where they need to have their math credits and understand math, like engineering or any kind of science, that kind of stuff. It does what it needs to do. English, like I said, I've only seen it. I haven't really gone in depth with BJU. It does remind me a lot of a Becca, sort of, but I know it's traditional. Traditional Christian is how I would categorize that. But that's all I know. I've never used it. All right. Favorite grammar curriculum for elementary is I like IEW. I do. I will always go back to IEW. My second favorite would be Well-Trained Mind. And both of them are classical, which surprises a lot of people based on just understanding like my thoughts and stuff. I like the classical education stuff. I don't know. I like IEW. Why? Did they say and why? With the elementary school age, I use their phonics. There's something about IEW that just resonates with me, and I think it's because Andrew Pudewa was a classically trained musician, and I wasn't classically trained musician. I was actually trained to be a professional ballet dancer. That's like a little fun fact. And that classical training, for some reason, like resonates with me. It's the way my thoughts work. And so he brings a lot of that into how structure and style is written. And I get it. Like, it makes sense to me. And I think it's a very good approach, which is basically looking at very good, strong literature and learning how to rewrite it to make it sound even better. That's pretty much the approach. Okay, so how Owen's right. What is your take on co-op for the newbies? Any tips for finding one to fit the family? Not an easy task, I'll agree. How do most homeschoolers manage all that? I mean, everybody's different. I like co-ops. Um, I do because it gets the kids out of the house and it gets them socializing. I would just go on Facebook. I don't know why. Instagram, this is not where you're going to find it. You're going to find it on Facebook. Search your area and homeschool. Like type in homeschool, whatever your area is, the city you're in. And just start going and joining the groups and start asking them about local co ops. And they will jump in and tell you. And then you can just do your research on each one, look what they have to offer, maybe see if you can call them and do a visit and visit the co-op and see how it goes when you're there. There's different types of co-ops. There's some co-ops, there's some hybrids. Oh, you don't use social media? Well, you're on YouTube. No, but maybe like just for this would be, I mean, unless you have connections at your congregation, even if you just like jumped on Facebook for like a day or two and just asked in the groups and then jumped off, because that seems to be a huge resource. I mean, you could get on and Google like your city and homeschool and then see what turns up. But there's a lot of co-ops that aren't going to advertise on Google. It's all going to be word of mouth. And that's what I would do. But you can go in, a lot of co-ops will let you go in and do like a sample day where you can sample everything out. How to homeschool, I mean, I don't know. How we manage all that. I mean, I know what I told my kids. We had our meeting last night because co-op starts this week. And I said, okay, this is how we're homeschooling this year. And I gave them the schedule for the week and I explained to them Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're only doing co-op stuff. They have a 3-hour break in between classes on Thursday this year. And I did not plan that on purpose at all. So I told them that's the day that you're going to do your homework for Tuesday co-op. You're going to sit there and do your homework. And if you don't do your homework, guess what? Sunday's a school day. Monday, Wednesday, Fridays is the stuff that I'm giving you. I don't want to see any class source stuff on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. That's the co-op we go to. And so they're taking, what are they taking? They're taking my science classes because I teach science there. And they're taking, one of them is taking an American history comprehension reading literature, an American history literature class. The middle schooler is taking that. And then my daughter is she's taking a math class, but it's not a math class. It's like a math games class. It's a supplementary class to whatever math curriculum we choose, which is teaching textbooks. And what else? Oh, they're doing a PE class, which is pretty much like social time. And then they're also taking an enrichment class, which is a Bible study with their peers. And then they're taking, I know one daughter one of them is taking math drills. Oh my gosh, I can't remember. In a running club. They're doing running. They're also taking archery. And my daughter does ballet. So, but that's on Tuesday, Thursdays. And other than that, we're home. Well, we're doing car therapy homeschooling because we have to take my daughter to therapies. But this year we kind of worked it out. So my husband is home on Mondays and he actually does all the running around with Naomi on Mondays. And then my mother-in-law comes on Tuesdays and takes Naomi to therapies all day on Tuesdays while we're at the co-op. So Monday we're home all day now. Wednesdays we have to do the therapy car schooling. And we're actually doing our history mostly in the car because that's a lot of group reading and discussions. And then on Fridays, my husband is home and Naomi has one therapy on Friday. And we haven't worked that out because it starts this week on Friday. But other than that, I mean, we finally kind of worked out our schedule. So sorry, that was a little bit of a ramble. How do you keep calm and homeschool on specific? how do I keep calm? I start the day with scriptures, and then I have accountability right now. But that's how I'm keeping calm right now, is I feel like I have some accountability. I really do. To really, because I'm seeing how my kids are responding to people in public. And when people complain about my kids' attitudes, I know that it is grounded in where their foundation lies. And they're also modeling me and my husband's behavior. And if I lose my cool, my kids are going to lose their cool in public. And that's really embarrassing. um, so what I've been like, literally this morning, I don't want to get too personal, but I literally sat down with one of my children and had a full-blown hour-long counseling session with them. And I literally felt like their therapist this morning. But taking the time out to just really help them understand their behavior and where their behaviors come from, and how it's a heart issue, and getting down to the heart and teaching from their heart, but also watching my response to them, understanding that they're watching me, and I don't want to lose my cool, because that makes it worse. It makes it so much worse when you lose your cool. Not saying that we don't lose our cool, because we do. We lose our cool all the time. Like when I'm trying to cook dinner and my daughter's, well, lunch, usually it's lunch, and my daughter's still struggling with math, or when I'm trying to clean up pee because she didn't make it to the toilet, and my kids are fighting over the pencil sharpener, little things like that. It's really easy to just yell and scream. But I always take a deep breath. I remember that one moment when I yell, and I have lost my cool. I'm not going to say I'm perfect. I've totally lost my cool. I'm not perfect at all, like by any means. And I still, every once in a while, have my moments. But if I have my moments, though, I always make it a point to apologize to them and say I was wrong. I shouldn't have yelled. I was really stressed out. I'm human. Please forgive me. And I try to be really humble with my kids. I think one of the biggest problems that parents have in general is that they don't apologize to their kids when they screw up. As a parent, I've apologized for pushing them in a curriculum that they hated before. That's happened. Or just a bad curriculum that, well, I shouldn't say that. A curriculum that didn't work for them, and I was really pushing them, or mistakes that I've apologized to them. So even things that they didn't even realize it was something that I messed up on, I still apologize. So I'm very, very open with my kids. I also like to model for them as much as I can good, proper behavior. And also I try, but I also try to encourage them when they're doing good behavior. And I don't always give them money or give them a treat or give them rewards. Like I do every once in a while, but like, so for example, today, we went to the YMCA because I go every Sunday. I love my class that I take. I love the YMCA, and I always want mommy's workout time. And Naomi has a hard time staying in the nursery at the YMCA in the beginning. It's always her in the beginning, and then she calms down. So we found out if one of the siblings stays with her, she usually calms down. But nobody wanted to do it. And so my daughter goes, "I'll do it today. I will do it today." And she looked at me, and I looked at her, and I said, "Thank you." And I left. Afterwards, she goes, "Mommy, what am I going to get for doing such a good job?" I was like, "Honey, you're not getting anything." And sometimes the reward that you get is spending time with your sister, quality time with your sister, because that is important. I totally went off on a tangent. So anyway, I try to remember sometimes the reward is the good behavior that they're going to have in front of people so they don't embarrass me. No, it's awful. But no, that's how I keep calm. I try to think of the consequences for my actions before I do the actions. And if I do screw up, I apologize. So I think that's the cool. And also educating myself. I also think accountability is huge. Having people, whether it's at your co-op, that's why I like co-ops, whether it's at your co-op or whether it's at your congregation or friends or whatever, knowing that people are holding you accountable and to high standards, and they see the fruit of your work by the way your children behave. And I know it's a horrible feeling when a parent or a a parent or a friend comes up to you to tell you something horrible that your child did. It's like the worst feeling ever. But then you can't just brush it off. You have to deal with the sin nature. You have to deal with those things. So I always think about consequence, or what is the result of my lashing out? Like, what are the consequences of that? So that's kind of what I do. I try to stay calm. And I think a lot of this does stem from Naomi, because she does model behavior tremendously. Her sister, Hannah, loves to yell and be loud. I mean, she's a girl that is a sibling to two older brothers that are loud. So if she wants to get attention, she has to be loud. And so Naomi has picked up a lot of the yelling to get attention too. And that's been one of my big struggles that we're trying to work through. But it's harder to get that out of Naomi than it is for Hannah. And so coming back to like really thinking about what I do and what I say before I do it, it really stems from understanding that in Naomi, it's going to be a lot harder to unlearn bad behaviors. Just, it is. I mean, I can't, it's part of what it is. So, okay. I'm going to move on to the next one. Grammar curriculum. I said that. Another, what kind of printer do you use? A really old one? I plan on starting So Happy to Learn. Yeah, you need a printer for that one. I do one that's subscription based. I have no clue what I have. Let me go look at it. What do I use? It's a black one. I don't know what printer. It's an HP Office Jet 3830, but I will say it doesn't give the best quality. I will say that, but it gets the job done, and it's a subscription based. And because So Happy Learn has so much printables, when we get ink for it, I put it towards the scholarship. So, and So Happy Learn has a lot of printing. Because you have to print like all the things, which reminds me, that reminded me I've got to print some more stuff up tonight. So when I'm done with this, I'm going to be printing So Happy to Learn worksheets. All right. How do I unschool myself in the public school? I saw a video short with you and Jamie. Yeah, I want to. Yeah. My kids, but I only know public school training. Welcome to the group. And somebody said a second. Yeah. So plug for myself. Well, first of all, there's this book that I wrote. I'm going to write a second one. Okay. I'm going to write a second one because this is such a big thing. And what I'm doing is we are unboxing all of this, but we are doing it. I don't know if it's going to be, well, it's going to have Christian perspective, but some of it is just going to be like just reality, so to speak. Because you can't deny history. Like you look at history and it's like Prussian, indoctrination philosophies. Then you got John Dewey coming in with the progressive movement and all these things. We're going to talk about all these things and understanding the history of what has been and where it comes from. It makes you go, maybe I don't want to do that, even though I was taught to do that. So that I always think is kind of a step one. So that's the first one I'm going to do with Summer Myers. If you haven't seen Summer Myers, she's probably one of my closest friends that I met through YouTube. And she's really cool. Like she's really smart. Like me and her are reading a physics book together. And we're going back and forth on like time dilation and pretty much our conversations are like, that's so cool. So, but she's really, really smart. And she has a really cool way with words, and she's funny too. So we have very similar personalities. She cracks me up. I love her. So yeah, it's going to be pretty intense talking about all the things. How do you do it? It's like a lot of prayer. And it's hard because, you literally have to take a day at a time. As much as I love Charlotte Mason, and I do, and I think her philosophies are a good way to look at things, some of her stuff is older and it doesn't really fit with our time. And that's just my opinion. I love Charlotte Mason, but you can modernize Charlotte Mason. So what I'm trying to say really is that's a good stepping stone to step on, is doing Charlotte Mason, the Charlotte Mason way, so to speak. All right, I'm just checking the chats. and checking the questions. But I think you can't unschool yourself overnight. I think unschooling yourself from the public school system, our generation, we're just kind of have to walk it every single day of our lives and continue walking every single day of our lives until, honestly, until I don't even know how to say it, just until they're graduated, even graduated college. And I think what's going to happen with their generation is they're going to have to also, but it's going to be easier for them to teach without that mentality. I don't know. It's a whole, there's so much. There's so much. It just a lot of prayer. I don't know. I'm making predictions that I'm not even sure about because every family is different. But I think it's going to take us a long time. I think it's going to take it every day. We're going to have to be doing it. It's kind of like our walk with the Lord. Any experience with IEW Phonics Zoo? Any experience? Yeah. I did Phonics Zoo. It's good. It's going to be a lot of repetition. It's going to be a lot of just learning how to spell the word. Sorry, excuse me. It's a lot of repetition. That's the best way to do it. It's cool because Andrew Poodlewaw talks and he gives you the spelling. Like, he gives you the spelling test. You do a spelling test every day, basically. And if you don't have them right, you do the spelling test again the next day. And if you don't get them all right, you do it again the next day. And if it takes you 15 days to finally get all of them right, then you can move on. That's the idea. And of course, they do trying to group them with a theme, a phonics type theme. And they get harder as the kid gets older. So, yeah, we used it. We did it. My kids are really good spellers. So for my older son, we actually dropped spelling. So he's a good speller. All right. My 10-year-old doesn't like school at all. Once she is angry at the simplest little things, little insignificant things, I lose her for hours, meaning she will sit there but not retain anything because she isn't listening or willing to do it. What can I do for this? Honestly, I would get to the heart of the issue. I would forget schooling, get to some character stuff. Why is she angry? What is going on? And really sit down and counsel her. That's what I had to do with one of my kids today. But you're gonna have to counsel her. Don't tell her there's no school. Like, just don't do school in that moment. And explain to her she's going to have to do school. But don't call it school, maybe just say she's gonna have to do some work for you after she calms down. But I made one of my kids write down, I made them journal to kind of help them understand what was going on, but getting down to the root of the problem, the root of the sin. What is, and they'll start to open up to you. And eventually, a lot of patience. It's going to take a lot of work working through that. But I encourage you to do that because otherwise you're just going to be angry and bitterness and you're going to go in the opposite direction. But it's really, it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. A lot of work. Okay, I posted one today on last week's video. So I'm going to go back and check what she asked. This is Kathy. And I don't see any questions in the comments anymore. So Kathy posted one today. Oh, yeah, she did. That was the one with the Horizons math. And then someone's just following up with apology and math is good, but we didn't continue with it because the prep work for the games and manipulatives. Life with Fred trigonometry should be good for visual learners. My gifted teen enjoyed it. It is story-based. Okay. All right, that's it. You guys don't have any more questions. And hopefully a lot of you guys that weren't here see this on the replay and all that things. So if you have any questions for next week, just drop them in the comment section down below. And next week is our final homeschool Q&A. If you have any questions, it's there. So then we'll start doing the unboxing stuff, which I'm super excited about. I'm really, really going to dig deep. And we're only going to do that through December. So there's going to be a stack of them. And it is going to be based on what my next book is about because I'm digging in this. I want to get back to homeschooling the way the Lord wants us to homeschool, but not in a shallow way. I want to get deep and I want to get to the root of some of the problems that we have. Like I said, like character training is homeschooling. It is raising your kids for life, but digging deep into that, like digging your heels in. Shallow stuff, no, I'm done with that. Glossing over stuff, doing so many subjects a day that you're just touching on little things and you're not digging deep in that, because that's what the public school system does. They just touch on things. And I hate the way I'll just be honest. I'm going to flat out say it. I hate the way public school and even private schools, and I shouldn't say that because a lot of private schools sometimes do a good job, but the majority of the time, I hate the way public school teaches science and history. Those two, I hate the way they teach it. And it's not just because, you're doing it from an evolutionist perspective, and history, you're doing it from, I don't even know what the word is right now. Yeah, but a non-biblical worldview. That's not the only reason I hate it. It's that when we tend to shove everything in one year. So you've got these science courses where they're like, for 6 weeks, we're going to do biology. And for 6 weeks, we're going to do geology. And it's like, why? You don't get deep. You don't learn the stuff. You just gloss over it and memorize facts. And I hate that. I hate that. I hate when homeschool curriculum does that. The whole point of homeschooling is for us to get a good education in things. That's why I'm a big fan of unit studies. Like if you're going to study science, pick one and do it. Like that's all you're going to do. They do that in high school. Why not do it in elementary school? Like just do astronomy or just do geology, just do, And then what's great is you can choose to do it from a biblical worldview because there's stuff out there, And then history, not to mention that, you gloss over history, so you're slamming all this stuff in. You don't use any primary sources. You're reading out of a textbook. Like, it's messed up. I think when I do history, I want to dig into one era. I wanted to look at everything from the art of the era to the people of the era. I want to look at primary sources, secondary sources. I want to dig into the losers too. I mean, that's really hard to do because most of history is going to be written by the winners. And so you do get a skewed perspective, but also understanding that that's the case, but also looking at it from a biblical perspective, right? It's not just a bunch of people doing, whatever they feel like doing. There's a purpose behind it. And you can see that the actions that they took are either against or for God and the consequences of their actions. And it's something that we can learn from. The mistakes that they made, we won't be making them. And then it always comes back to the Bible. You go back to the Bible and, well, God said, and it's just, I don't know. History is not done right in the public school system. And why did I say all that? I don't know. I think I always like to, at the end of my answering of questions, go back over. I think I'm talking about how we're going to unbox it and go deep. That's what I'm going to say. Hopefully I get enough sleep so I'm not tired when I get on these lives and I can use, the words to help you understand what I mean. But I'm going to have help with some really cool people. So the first one is Summer Myers. We're going to start unboxing a little bit about the public school system, the history of the public school system, and the damage that it's done in our lives that we are starting to recognize now that we didn't recognize when we first started homeschooling. And then the 25th of September, I'm going to be doing it with Jamie. Jamie is also she's on YouTube as well. And all of a sudden I can't remember the name of her channel, but she has a son with autism he's on the spectrum. And we're going to talk about when it comes to homeschooling kids that have special needs and disabilities, and especially if, for example, if the kid is nonverbal, how do we know that they're understanding who God is? And how much do we need to be teaching? Do we need to even worry about the benchmarks that are thrown at us from the public school? Why are we even worried about that stuff? Because really what's the most important for them is to learn about the Lord. She sent me literally pages of notes on this topic because she's so passionate about it. So that's going to be really cool. And of course, we're going to bounce off ideas because, like I said, I knew someone who said to me, and it's still think about it in the back of my head. They said to me that they have a sibling with a disability, and their concern was that their sibling would never be saved because they don't speak much. And I don't know. There's a lot to say about that because there is a community out there that doesn't believe that people with disabilities, that severe disabilities, do not know who God is because they can't understand them for whatever reason. And there's a group of people that believe that. And so we're going to kind of unbox that a little bit. So much so Jamie might have to come on twice and we might have to just chit chat about these things. And then I also am looking at Ryan from Mama on the Move. Nope, Mama on a Mission. Mama on the Move is Jasmine. I can get Jasmine too. I don't know if she wants to join, but I think Ryan has a lot of insight because she is very strong theologically with a lot of things when it comes back to homeschooling, all those things. Another person, I have a friend who is a director. She's a director. She has some movies that are on PureFlix, guys. It's kind of cool. One of them I am in. I'm in one of her movies that's on PureFlix. I don't say anything. I'm just the reason I'm in the movie is because my son is in the movie. But and I was just there. Anyway, I'm in one of her movies. But she has, I think she has 2 or 3 of them on PureFlix. Anyway, we are going to talk about homeschooling from a Messianic perspective because it's a little bit different with the high holidays. It's unique. And a lot of Christians are really interested in how we do it. It's pretty cool. It's very unique. And I always say this, I am a Messianic. I'm a Messianic believer. I always like to say that straight up front, I always say that I believe in the triune nature of God, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, 3 persons in one. I always say that because there are a lot of Messianic believers out there that do not believe that. So I always preface that I do believe that Jesus is the Son of God, that he is deity, all those things. I agree with Christians like pretty much on everything except for like a few of the things, which is, we celebrate the high holidays. And a lot of Christians don't see the point in celebrating the high holidays. And so I see a big point and purpose in celebrating the high holidays. So I'm very verbal about that and I like to share it and how to do it right because when I celebrate those high holidays, I feel so close to the Lord. I know they're very powerful, especially my favorite is Yom Kippur, and that's repentance. And I know there are a lot of traditional things that come in from Judaism. Some are good, some are bad. And the nice thing about being Messianic, we can pick through those. But biblically speaking, there is instructions in the Bible on how to do it. And it's afflicting your soul. We fast. And we gather together as a community. We pray for one another. We talk about scriptures. There's been years where and we're repenting and we're humbling ourselves before the Lord. And there have been years where there have been tears happening because of the depth of repentance that we have. Just taking a day off, like an entire day. I'm going on a Yom Kippur kick, but taking an entire day off to come together as a community to the Lord and repent for our sins and support each other in this. Who does that? And I think we should do that. I think as believers, we should do that. Passover, all those things are so special. So we're going to talk about that and how to bring that into the uniqueness of homeschooling. I'm also going to do a video as well on how a Christian can celebrate these holidays. And so I think that'll be fun. I got a few of them on there. So if you're watching this and I haven't done it yet, jump on and check those out. All right. So I think this about covers it. Yeah. So thank you guys so much for watching. Take care and have a wonderful night. Bye.